My dear Pisces, some work lights you up from the inside, and some work quietly dissolves something in you that takes a long time to name and even longer to rebuild. The environments that erode you tend to share a specific quality. They are rigid. They measure everything that can be counted and ignore everything that cannot. They reward the person who follows the process over the person who understands what the process was trying to achieve in the first place. And they treat your particular way of perceiving the world, the way you sense what is underneath a situation before anyone has articulated it, as a liability rather than the professional gift it actually is. Understanding which environments honor that gift rather than suppress it is not a soft consideration. It is the most grounding career decision you can make. Pisces is a mutable water sign ruled by Neptune, with Jupiter as its traditional co-ruler. In plain professional terms, that combination produces something that is genuinely rare and genuinely difficult to replicate. Neptune governs imagination, intuition, compassion, and the dissolution of the boundaries that separate one person's inner world from another's. Jupiter contributes breadth, generosity, and the drive toward meaning rather than mere function. Mutable water means you move with remarkable fluidity through emotional and creative complexity, adapting, absorbing, and responding to what is actually present in a situation rather than what the agenda says should be there. The careers that deserve that quality are the ones that need someone who can feel what is true before the data confirms it, and who can translate that feeling into something that reaches other people in a way that logic alone never quite manages. The first field worth considering seriously is the creative arts, storytelling, and the professional disciplines of artistic expression. This covers fiction and narrative writing, screenwriting, filmmaking, musical composition and performance, visual art, illustration, and the full range of creative careers where the primary task is making something that did not exist before and putting it in front of another human being in a way that moves them. For Pisces, this is not just a natural fit. It is often the field that feels least like work, which is precisely why some Pisces spend years talking themselves out of it. The reasoning goes something like this: if it comes this naturally, it cannot be a real career. That reasoning is wrong, and it is worth examining carefully before it costs you too much time. Neptune governs imagination in its most expansive form, the capacity to inhabit a perspective completely, to feel what a character feels, to hear what a piece of music wants to become, to see the image that belongs inside the frame, is a Neptunian quality that Pisces tends to possess with unusual depth. In a creative career, that quality is not just useful. It is the whole engine. The most technically accomplished artists in any medium will tell you that technique is learnable and imagination is not. You arrived with the imagination. The technique is the work. Mutable modality means you are fluid across forms and genres and media in a way that rigid creative personalities often are not. You can find your way into a new creative language relatively quickly because you are listening for the truth of the thing rather than the rules of the form. Here is the scene. You are working on a creative project, a script, a composition, a series of paintings, and you hit the moment that every creative person dreads. The moment where the thing you are making and the vision you had for it are clearly not the same thing. Most people at that moment either force the original vision onto material that cannot hold it, or they abandon the project entirely. You do neither. You sit with the gap. You let the work tell you what it actually wants to be rather than insisting on what you intended. And what emerges from that surrender is almost always better than what you planned. Not softer, not less rigorous. Truer. That capacity to follow the material rather than impose on it is one of the most distinctive and most valuable qualities a working artist can develop. For Pisces, it tends to be the natural mode rather than the hard-won skill. Long-term, what Pisces builds in creative careers is a body of work with a recognizable emotional signature. Not a stylistic signature, though that often develops too, an emotional one. The feeling people get from your work. The specific quality of truth that runs through everything you make, regardless of medium or genre or subject matter. That emotional consistency is what turns an audience into a following and a career into a legacy. It cannot be manufactured. It can only be discovered through the sustained, honest practice of making things that matter to you and putting them in front of people who need to feel what you felt. Here is where to start. If the creative path is where you belong and you are not yet fully committed to it professionally, set a non-negotiable weekly block of time for the creative work and treat it with the same seriousness you would give a client meeting or a work deadline. Not when the inspiration arrives, on schedule, whether the inspiration is present or not. Discipline does not kill creative flow for Pisces. Unpredictable access to the work does. Show up on the same days at the same time and let the work find you there. That practice, sustained over months, produces more creative momentum than any burst of inspired effort ever will. The second path that tends to suit Pisces at a deep level is the healing professions, particularly those that integrate the psychological and the physical dimensions of human well-being. This covers psychotherapy and counseling, integrative medicine, occupational therapy, music and art therapy, palliative care, chaplaincy, and the range of healing disciplines that treat the person rather than just the presenting condition. What makes this field a natural fit for Pisces is not just compassion, that you have it in abundance. It is the specific perceptual quality that Neptune produces, the ability to be so fully present with another person's inner experience that they feel genuinely met in it. That quality is the foundation of every therapeutic relationship that actually heals rather than just manages. Neptune dissolves the ordinary boundaries of self in ways that allow Pisces to genuinely inhabit another person's emotional reality without losing their own grounding. In a healing context, that translates into a practitioner who does not just understand what a client or patient is experiencing intellectually, you feel the shape of it. You sense where the wound is before the person has found the words for it. You know which question to ask not because a protocol suggests it, but because something in the room is pointing toward it. That perceptual sensitivity, combined with the mutable water capacity to flow around a person's defenses rather than confronting them directly, produces a healing presence that clients describe as unlike anything they have experienced with other practitioners. Jupiter, the traditional co-ruler of Pisces, governs wisdom and the larger meaning of experience. In a healing context, that quality gives Pisces the ability to help a client or patient locate their suffering within a larger story, to find the meaning in what has happened to them, or at least the possibility of meaning, which is often what people in genuine pain most need someone to help them approach. That is not a clinical technique. It is a pastoral and philosophical gift, and the healing professions that leave room for it are the ones that tend to produce the most satisfied and most effective Pisces practitioners. Picture this. A client has reached a point in the therapeutic or healing process where they need to say something they have never said to another person. You can feel it before they approach it. There is a quality in the room, a particular kind of held breath, that tells you something significant is close. Most practitioners in that moment stay with their framework, their technique, their clinical protocol. You set all of it gently aside and simply become very still and very present. You do not prompt. You do not guide. You wait in a way that communicates, without words, that whatever is about to be said can be said here and will be held carefully. And then it comes. And the work that has been building for months takes a step forward that no technique could have forced. That stillness was not passivity. It was a form of profound clinical skill that has no entry in any textbook, but produces outcomes that every good healer recognizes. Over a long career in the healing professions, what Pisces develops is a quality of presence that clients return to across years and even decades. Not because you have all the answers, because being in your care feels fundamentally safe. That quality of therapeutic safety is one of the most durable professional assets a healer can build, and it tends to compound in the most meaningful way possible, through the lives that improve and the people who send others to you because of what you gave them. This is the move to make. If healing work calls to you and you are not yet formally in the field, Begin by training in one body-based or expressive therapeutic modality that is accessible without a full clinical credential. A foundational course in art therapy principles, a certification in mindfulness-based approaches, a training in grief support facilitation. The goal is not to practice without appropriate credentials. The goal is to discover, in a real context with real people in genuine need, whether your presence in that role produces the quality of connection that confirms the path. For most Pisces drawn to healing work, that discovery happens quickly and clearly. The third career path worth naming for Pisces is film, theater, and the performing arts in their most collaborative forms, specifically the roles that involve directing, producing, casting, dramaturgy, or the creative leadership functions that shape what an audience ultimately experiences. This is distinct from the solo creative practice described earlier. What this path requires is the ability to hold a creative vision while simultaneously attuning to the people who will bring it to life, drawing the best possible performance and contribution from each collaborator without flattening their individual creative voice in the process. That particular leadership skill is a Neptune specialty. Neptune governs the collective imagination, the shared dream that a room full of people enters together when a story is being told well. In a directing or producing context, that quality gives Pisces the ability to hold the emotional truth of a piece steady across the entire arc of production, from the first read-through to the final cut or the closing night. Where other creative leaders can lose the thread of a work's emotional core in the technical and logistical demands of production, you tend to keep it. You know when a scene has drifted from what it is supposed to feel like, even when it is technically correct. You know which performance is alive and which one is merely accurate. That discernment is the central skill of every great director and every great creative producer. Mutable water in a collaborative creative environment means you are exceptionally good at reading the room, not just the work, but the people making the work. You sense when a performer is blocked and needs a different approach. You know when a creative team needs to play and when they need to be focused. You adapt your leadership style almost unconsciously to what the collaboration requires in this moment, without losing your authority or your vision. That fluid, responsive form of creative leadership produces working environments that attract talented people and keep them, because working with you feels like being genuinely seen and genuinely trusted. Here is the scene. You're in rehearsal or in production, and a key collaborator is struggling. Not with the technical demands of the work, with the emotional demands. They cannot find the truth of the scene or the performance or the contribution they are supposed to make. Other directors or producers in that situation either push harder or hand the person a solution. You do something different. You ask them what the scene feels like to them, not what it is supposed to feel like, what it actually feels like when they are inside it. And then you listen. Really listen. And from what they tell you, you find the one thing you can say or show or suggest that unlocks what they were reaching for. The scene comes alive. And the collaborator walks away not just with a better performance, but with a deeper understanding of their own creative process. That is Pisces in creative leadership doing what cannot be taught in any directing program. Long term, what Pisces builds in collaborative creative leadership is a reputation as someone who makes the work better by making the people better. Your productions and projects become known not just for their quality, but for the quality of the process that produced them. Collaborators seek you out not just because the work is good, but because working with you is a genuinely meaningful professional experience. That reputation, once established, is one of the most powerful forms of creative currency that exists. It does not depend on any single success or any particular institutional affiliation. It lives in the people you have worked with, and they carry it everywhere they go. Here is how to move toward this path. Find one small creative production, a student film, a community theater production, a short performance piece, and take on a directorial or producing role from start to finish. Not a supporting role, the responsible one. Hold the vision, manage the collaborators, make the calls when the calls need to be made, and see the thing through to its audience. What you learn about your own creative leadership instincts through that complete cycle of responsibility is more useful than any formal program can provide in isolation. The experience of standing behind a completed work that you shaped and saying, "Honestly, that is what I meant. That is what makes the path real." Before you close this out, take a genuine moment with what you just heard. Of those three fields, the creative arts and solo artistic practice, the healing professions, and collaborative creative leadership in film and theater, which one felt like something you have always known about yourself, but perhaps been afraid to claim fully? Which one named a part of your professional identity that the environments you have worked in so far have not quite had room for? And which one surprised you, arrived from an angle you did not expect, and left you reconsidering something you had quietly set aside? Leave a comment telling me which path resonated most honestly. Or tell me which field you are already working in, and whether this description matched what the work actually feels like from the inside. Those real-world reflections are what give a channel like this its genuine value. If this kind of grounded, sign-specific vocational reflection is useful to you, subscribing means more of it continues to find its way to you. My dear Pisces, this is a return to video. Please make sure to save it and revisit whenever you need it. Also, obviously don't forget to like and subscribe. And have a blessed day.